welcome to another episode of A Clockwork in an Orange. First of all, a quick reminder, this is a podcast about movies, in which the starting point, at least in this series, is iconic cars, but the aspect that we are least interested in is the cars themselves. They are just an excuse.
The perfect excuse to talk about movies.
Yeah, that's it. So you just heard the voice of my guest today. This is my dad, the person that made me a movie lover, I would say. So Dad, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is João Belchior. It's the same name as my son, and it's the same name as my father. We are not quite original in our family, so I'm extremely happy to be here, to be a part of this new project of João. And I'm also quite glad to see that the movie gene that runs in our family has blossomed. Yeah, thank you, into something, and we are quite satisfied to see you pursue this movie interest that you are in. So I am the host's father, and I am a movie buff, and because I cannot live as a movie buff, I am a psychologist also. So I think, in a nutshell, this is it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So today we are going to talk about the Batmobile. So, as many of you may know, the Batmobile isn't just one car. Is the car of the Batman, but it has changed throughout the years.
Throughout the versions of Batman.
Yeah. Since the comics, through the animated series, to the several animated series, to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, Dad, what is your favorite Batmobile?
Well, my favorite Batmobile is undoubtedly the 1989 Batman, which stars Michael Keaton. That just found out that it's called the Keaton Mobile. Okay. It's an iconic car because I grew up with the Keaton Mobile through the years, so that's my favorite.
Okay, I can't agree with you. At least that's not my favorite, but my favorite is the Tumbler.
Yeah, the Christopher Nolan one.
The Christopher Nolan. But before we continue with the Tumbler, let's talk a little bit about the Keaton Mobile. And about the movie, the 1989 Batman movie. So first of all, what do you think about that movie? Because we have very different and distinct opinions.
Yeah. You know, it's quite interesting to see that what you think about the 1989 Batman. Because for me, I was 15 years old when the Batman from Tim Burton's Batman came out. And it was like anything we ever saw. You know, the comics were very mistreated in the 70s and in the 80s. They were funny versions of what we saw in the comic books. You know, Batman, for instance, the Batman that I knew before Tim Burton was the series from the 60s that was completely camp. We saw Batman and Robin in flashy suits, gray, blue, red, and green. The colors that stood out.
Skinny latex.
Yeah, it wasn't quite latex, you know. It was I don't know what kind of tissue it was, but it was very, very campy. It was like Batman on acid. It was clearly a product of the 60s, and then Tim Burton came along. And he tried to make a more darker approach to Batman. And Tim Burton's Batman, it was clearly that, a darker world, It was with an incredible production design, with some industrialized world. Gotham was an industrialized world. It was very dark, very grittier, and it was serious. And like the Batman in the 60s, that we are laughing from the starting point until the end.
Yeah.
It was very, very serious, and of course it was a Tim Burton, you know.
Yeah. I think I understand everything you said
But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Let me just finish the idea. So Tim Burton's approach was serious than the one before, and then along came Christopher Nolan. And I thought that Tim Burton's was a more serious approach, but Christopher Nolan made a real, within commas, I'm making commas with my fingers, made a real approach to Batman. What would it be if a superhero was living in fact in our world? And that was a turning point to the superhero movies that we are seeing today. So, just to recap, to finish, you grew up with Batman from Christopher Nolan, with superheroes in our world, again with air commas. I didn't. For me, superheroes were an imagine heroes. We knew that they would not be in our real world, but Christopher Nolan brought the superheroes to our world. So when I'm saying today that the Tim Burton approach was much more real than the 60s, when we see the Batman from Tim Burton, of course, this isn't real. This cannot be our world. This cannot be a real approach.
That was what I understood about the movie. That
it's all about context, social and cultural context.
Obviously, and I confess that I couldn't step away from the production and from all the how can I say this, and the obstacles that they had back then that couldn't make the movie more real,
more believable.
Yeah, more believable. And I couldn't step away from that, and that interfered with my viewer experience.
Yeah.
But then there are some things that I really loved, and some things that I missed. And for example, I missed the origin story.
Well, that's again a context issue, you know. For your generation, everything must have a context,
a background story.
Yeah, every superhero must have a specific film that when the parents were, when the father impregnated the mother, and from that starting point, we have a context. So we didn't, and I still believe that we don't have to.
I think we don't have to, but I missed it.
Yeah.
Because I think that if I knew who that Batman was, Bruce Wayne, before I watched the movie, of course, but I think that if you didn't know that, you would feel like, because some information that are given you in the movie, some that you know that.
Yeah, because movies today treat us like imbeciles, you know, and treat the viewer as someone who doesn't have any cultural reference or experience, and that's a perfect excuse to make more movies and to make more money. That's a very cynical approach from me, I know, but sometimes I do feel that, and we are in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, more or less, we are always making the same stories. I'm fed up about origin stories, and now it's the Joker that's coming out, the new film, another origin story. I bet the film is incredible. At least it was very well received in the
Venice
Film Festival. Yeah, but again, we are not moving forward. It's just the same stories told all over again. Spider-Man, for instance.
Yeah, I'm fed up with that too.
Spider-Man, it was the same Raimi, wonderful first two movies. The third one I will not talk about. Again, it was rebooted with Andrew Garfield, and now
with Tom Holland.
Yeah,
and we won't talk about the Sony and Disney issues of the Spider-Man, but I agree with that. I've had several discussions with my friends about this. I think that it's all about the money,
all about the money. Sorry.
But I also think that sometimes it is important. For example, in the Nolan trilogy, I feel that it was very important to have a beginning history, a beginning story.
Yeah.
Because it introduced us to a new Batman, to a new way of seeing things.
Yeah, but that was Christopher Nolan's objective from the early on. Batman Begins. So Christopher Nolan started by wanting to tell the audience that origin story, and by doing so, and it is a wonderful movie, a fantastic superhero movie. But by doing so, he opened Pandora's box, and now we cannot close it, and we are always repeating the origin story. But Christopher Nolan's beginning of Batman, it's incredible.
And I think that now returning, let's go back to the 1989.
Yeah.
Before going to the trilogy of Nolan.
The best film of them all. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So one thing that I didn't like was the Joker. I was expecting more, especially because of the alter ego Jack Napier that was already involved in crime, and was already the Joker before falling.
No, it was not. He was not the Joker. He was a bandit. It was a criminal.
No, I say this because you see from early on he playing with cards and so he's not. I would expect something like the Jack Napier and the Joker are two different people, and you can distinguish them, but they use the same body to express themselves.
I don't think they are different person. They are the chemical splash that Jack Napier did that turned him into Joker. Just enhanced what was not subliminal, because it was not subliminal. It was there, but just enhanced the characteristics of Jack Napier and turn him more loose, more psychic, not psychics. I'm sorry. I'm missing the word in English. More schizophrenic, not the proper word, but turn him into a madman, and just enhance what was already there.
Yeah, but again, after watching the Joker from the Nolan trilogy, and that's the thing. I watched the Tim Burton movie after I watched the Nolan trilogy several times, and you did it the opposite way.
The proper way.
Yeah, the proper way. Okay, fair enough. But so I watched a Joker that in Nolan's trilogy. I watched the Joker that we didn't know who he was. We didn't have to know who he was. Again, it's like the history, the background history.
Yeah.
I didn't think we would need it in the 1989. Didn't have to know that he was like that because he splashed into some chemicals. Yeah, I think that by not knowing anything at all, it makes him more scary, and because he just wants to watch the city burn, he just wants to provoke chaos. and in Jack Napier, I think that there's some personal revenge, and it's not so scary, I would say, neither so mad as I would like to see.
Okay. I don't quite agree with you, but I understand what you are saying. But first of all, I love Jack Nicholson, and I think that Jack Nicholson did a wonderful job with Joker. Again, I think we are seeing Joker from two perspectives, and your starting point is Heath Ledger's Joker. That's wonderful. It's a completely mad persona that fills the screen, and we are seeing, or I am seeing, Joker as a man that's clearly have some disturbances, have some issues. Is a criminal, works for I don't know if I can say a bigger criminal, but a kingpin.
DC's Kingpin, yeah.
Yeah, this is, yeah. And for a lot of things that happens, he ends up being a Joker. But I think in that setting, in that movie, that's the narrative structure is it's quite alright, and we need to see the arc in
yeah. I understand. I totally understand, because I think that if we picked up this final product and we took out that whole part with when we see Jack Napier transforming into the Joker, we would feel that something is missing. But what I think is that Tim Burton could approach it
differently,
in a whole different way when making the movie, not after.
Yeah, he could. But for the audiences, for the viewers, our starting point is Batman. You know Batman. You know what Batman is and what Batman stands for, but you don't know Batman's enemies. And in Batman in 1989, you are presented to Joker and how Joker came to be. Afterwards, in Batman Returns, you are presented to Penguin and Catwoman and how they come to be. So the starting point was the same. We started with Batman, and we see the ones that came into the Batman universe. I will not go to Batman and Robin and because they are not from Tim Burton, and they are incredibly bad. So bad that a whole lot of podcasts should be made regarding those two entries.
And not only that, the problem with Batman, I dare to say, is that Batman is so old that many people came along and tried to do something new with Batman. Some succeeded, and we are talking about two directors that did a wonderful job, whether we like one more than the other.
Yeah.
But there are some other things that were done with Batman that are shameful, I would say, and that if we see them, oh my god, this is not the Batman
that I know, that I want to know. Yeah. But just to
wrap this up.
Yeah. The 1989 Batman, I was telling you about. It's a Tim Burton. It's clearly a Tim Burton, and it's filled with Tim Burton references and and elements from his universe. I love the production design. I love the tone, because for me, again, with the context, it's quite different from what I was used to be. And most of all, I think that Batman has probably one of the most wonderful original soundtracks that there are in a movie. Danny Elfman's soundtrack, it's superb. It's incredibly on the spot. It represents with sound the Batman universe. And even today, when I think about Batman, and including the Christopher Nolan ones, my my ears go back to Danny Elfman's
and with
soundtrack.
that, I have to totally agree. I think that is superb, the work that he has done to Batman.
And the end of Batman, when we are all over the movie listening to the Batman theme, but the end when Batman is standing on the top of the cathedral, I think, looking up to the bat sign, the soundtrack goes nuts and the film ends. So it's the most incredible ending with the most incredible score.
Okay, I have to agree with that. Going back to the cars, just to finish this first part of the podcast. I think that we chose different cars because I would say we believe we like different Batmans. When the Batmobile is more like a sports car, slim,
it's
with a lot of gadgets.
It's a bat penis. It's a penis. It's a incredible design, and it's on the same tone that the other stuff that appears on the movie. The Tumbler, it's a war machine. It's a real car from the real world that's been upgraded
to be the Batmobile. So
and the Batmobile doesn't exist. It's something that was only made up to Batman. By who? I don't know, and I don't want to know. I don't want an origin story about the car. I don't want any of that.
And it's funny because you said that we had in Nolan's we have a real car that was upgraded to be the Batmobile, and while in Burton's we have a car that was designed specifically for Batman. But it's funny because I don't know if you know this, but the first Batmobile was a regular car, red, all red, that was Bruce Wayne's car and Batman's car. So we had a car that was simultaneously a normal car and a Batmobile. Then we had missing a lot of cars in between. We had a car that was designed specifically for the Batman, and we have now, and not talking about the Batman versus Superman Batmobile, all of that.
Okay.
Let's forget that movie ever existed. We have a car that was in the real world, like the first one, but wasn't Bruce Wayne's, was a war machine and was transformed to the Batmobile. So I think that's interesting to see the evolution of the Batmobile that has an arc also, like the character.
Yeah, like all the other characters.
So moving on to what I've began to call the philosophical parts of the podcast.
Ooh, the philosophical.
I don't know if I can call this, but it's what it became naturally throughout these last two episodes. So I wanted to ask you some things about what does it really mean to be a hero?
Let me try to answer as following. Regarding superheroes, I'm not talking about heroes in real life. I'm talking about heroes or superheroes in the movie and comic universes. One thing that I love about Batman is that Batman is probably one of the few real heroes. He's not a superhero, or he makes himself a superhero with the gadgets that he uses, with all the investment that he makes in himself. But he was not bitten by a spider. He's not an alien that, because of Earth's core and gravity and density and mass, makes him completely different from what he was in his own planet. And it's just a regular guy well, not regular.
Multi-millionaire.
He's a multi-millionaire, but you know what I mean. He's just a man that wants to make a difference, wants to stop the crime wave that is rampaging in Gotham, and that brings him a sense of morality that I always loved in Batman. And that Batman versus Superman, the film that we are not talking about, but they tried to explore that sense of morality, and that was the I don't know what how can I say, that was the point that make Superman and Batman diverge, you know.
Yeah.
what I mean, but they did an awful job with that. But returning to Batman, Batman, so it's a man with a high sense of moral that wants to make a difference. What makes a hero? I think that sense of try to make some good, to overcome one's fears and one's limitations or perceptions of limitation, and to do some good, to try to help others. I think we can summarize.
But so you started by distinguish the real world from the superhero world and Marvel and DC world, let's call it that. But yeah, as you said before, I've been growing in a world in which superheroes are portraits in my world.
Yeah.
So what in that world, assuming that they could exist, let's not talk about Superman or Spider-Man. Yeah. Let's talk about superheroes like Bruce Wayne and Batman. What gives them the right to do that? I mean, there are some collateral damage to everything they do, but what gives them, makes them think, okay, I can do this? What balances their moral compass to think that what they are doing is right?
Well, that's an excellent question, you know, because I have two completely opposite positions that I might share with you. First of all, if I have some superpower and if I have the ability to make a difference and to make a positive difference in the world, is it not not my right, but my duty to make that difference, to make that impact in the world? If I can make a difference, if I can protect, if I can improve, if I can again make
the world a
positive difference, isn't my obligation to do so? One question, and the other question is to see I'm seeing this on an opposite note. What makes me better, or what makes me endowed with the ability or the right to apply justice by one's hand, by my hands? If I have for instance, Superman abilities, should I overstep the legal mechanisms that are put in place to everyone else?
It's another Pandora box that by doing that we open it, and we allow other people to do so, and that those people can risk their own lives and risk other people's lives too.
You know, I think that was I think the most interesting plot point of the Captain America Civil War. the Sokovia Accords. I don't know if it's Sokovia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when we see Black Panther.
No, when we see the Avengers splitting up, some Avengers think that they must obey to some international regulations, and the other Avengers think that they should not be complying with any kind of regulation because they would be tied up to some superior interest by someone, and so that's. I think this is what we are talking about. But to summarize, I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about it. But I do know one thing. I do know that by being a superhero, and again in the movies, one of the things that I love about superhero movies that they are movies that we can escape from the real world. Yeah. So I'm getting a little bit tired of superheroes running around in my world. You know, I wanted to be Superman when I was a kid, and I wanted also to be Batman. Because I could fly, because I could make a lot of things, and I still want to fly, and I still want to do a lot of things, and I don't want to have to think about this type of implications. If I am a superhero, I want to escape. It's a very selfish approach.
But that makes sense also. I can understand what you say. But for example, in Batman, let's go to Nolan's second Batman when we see the Joker and Heath Ledger. We have a part of the movie that Joker's only purpose and objective is
to make chaos,
but also to know who Batman is, and by making that, what is that? That means that
he's testing his morals.
It's testing his morals for sure, but Batman had found an enemy so Gotham is their stage, and they're fighting one against another, and the people are collateral damage. So when we have a supervillain that wants to make chaos and uses the Batman that is an important figure to stop chaos, to make even more chaos, shouldn't the Batman just retire? Shouldn't the Batman go away? Isn't the Batman making everything worse by being there?
Of course not, because Batman, our superhero, has clear morals, and he can make the decision between what's right and what's wrong, and even if he is put in the situation that he has to make some choices, and in that movie he had to make some choices, he makes them, he is hurt by them, but he clearly makes the right choice. It's a superhero, it's a movie, so they should be put in those types of situations. So it's the movies. But if we are not talking about movies, and if your question
applies to the real
world, to our world, my answer is of course different, you know, and I think heroes are the ones that overcome their personal obstacles and try to make some clear change and clear difference with the skills that they have. For instance, I was talking with a friend of mine this week that they had a huge fire near a city that's nearby us, and some houses were in harm's way. And she was talking to me about a 16-year-old kid that helped the firemen to put the fire out. And the kid worked 8 hours straight to go in places, in houses that he didn't knew about, picking up some hoses, watering the fire, the houses, try the firemen to help them. That kid was clearly a hero. He didn't have to do that. He overcame his fear. He overcame, and he put the communal interests in front of its own. It was clearly easier for him to go away. Let the firemen do their job. We also we can see this also by another point of view. It clearly was. I'm missing the word in English. Irresponsible, and the firemen were irresponsible to allow them. But everything has
pros and cons.
Yes, everything. So to be a hero is to put the others' needs in front of us, in front of ours.
So if we had Batman and Joker in our world, do you think that in that case Batman should have gone away when he understands that Joker's or should have taken the mask?
Well, if we are being serious regarding this question, I think that Batman should not exist. Of course, I don't like vigilantes. I don't like.
That was my next question.
I don't like people that clearly think they are above the law and put oneself in another moral compass. You know. So vigilantes are a very slippery slope. If we started with one, soon enough we'll have a lot of them, and the police and the other forces are not able to do their job. So if we are being serious, I don't like vigilantes. In the comic world and in the movie, okay, let him do what he does best.
So that's why you think that it's so important for the vigilantes and for the superheroes to live in another world where you can escape and you can like them.
Yeah.
Because if they are in our world, they are not that well received and they don't make as much sense.
At least by me.
Yeah, I agree with you, because we see, and I'm trying to make the parallelism with Batman stories. We see, for example, Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
If we exclude the part when he becomes a villain, he's a hero without a mask.
Yeah.
And I think, and the 16-year-old kid that you talked about, I think that those heroes in our world exist.
Of course they do, and I think I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think every one of us can make a difference, but we are living in a world that's more and more selfish, more and more self-absorbed, and it's difficult for us to really see heroes in our world. But I still believe that we can make a difference, and we should make a difference, every one of us. And if we have this mindset, and we have the mindset that we are able to make some daily change, to being polite with one another, to help a old woman across the street, to help carry some groceries, I don't know, these small gestures are hero gestures, and I'm sorry, but I'm not pretend to be here with a pedagogical viewpoint or some. I really believe this because we are self-absorbed, and we don't see with our iPods and our I don't know, everything. We are clearly in our world that's enhanced, that's wonderful technologically, but we are missing out what's right beside us, and we can make a difference for the ones that are around us.
Yeah, I agree with you. So And this...
You should, I am your father.
I had another question here that I think you answered. That is, let's continue in our world. Being a hero isn't something definitive. It depends from person to person and from situation to situation.
I can be a hero today and a villain tomorrow.
Yeah, and also from our background.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we should judge other people's being hero or not. I think that we should focus in us trying to become. I wouldn't use the word hero. I would say let's try to make us the better version of ourselves each day.
Yeah.
And if we can be heroes, be a hero to someone by doing that, great. If not, great also. But let's.
It's my time. It's my turn to agree with you. Yeah, I agree. Let me just end up with a sentence by Joseph Campbell that I think summarizes the ability to know oneself better, and if we know ourselves better, we can improve ourselves. Campbell said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So if we are afraid, and we clearly are afraid to enter in some caves and some dark recesses of our lives and our minds, but
as individuals and as humans.
Yeah. But by doing so, by entering, by facing our fears, we are getting stronger, and we are finding the treasures that we seek. And sometimes we don't even know that we are seeking them. But so it's quite important to really know oneself in order to. And I'm making gestures with my hands, trying to to get the words in English. It's really important to know oneself in order to
improve
and to be outside of ourselves, to allow the focus to be on the other
to see ourselves from a different perspective and to see the world and our problems,
and to put the focus on others, not on us.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
I think you said basically you know that YouTube channel that I really like, the Yes Theory, where they their mantra is seek discomfort in order to be comfortable more often.
Yeah, I completely agree. They are permanently entering the caves that they fear.
Yeah. Okay. So that's amazing. So what I would suggest is that for us to try to enter our caves more often. I think that we could make a better world if we make ourselves better as well.
Yeah.
So let's try to enter caves alone, our caves and our
collective caves. Yeah.
To make this a better version of our world, and to prove that we don't need vigilantes, we need heroes in small gestures.
We need better persons.
Yeah, that's it. And to conclude this episode, we will go for the movie of the week.
Okay.
In this case, movie of the 2 weeks. But what would you suggest within the topic? It doesn't have to be a superhero. It can be something about morality.
Morality.
Yeah.
Regarding, it's not a movie, it's a series, and it's not of the week. But regarding superheroes, and I'm getting a little bit fed up with superheroes, but that's another topic for another discussion. The series that I really love about superheroes is Legion. It's a wonderful two series, yeah, about superheroes. That's filmed incredibly. Narratively is challenging. It's a wonderful TV show, and that's my suggestion.
Okay, so since you didn't go for a movie, I think I won't go either.
Okay.
And since we are talking about superheroes, I will talk about a comic book that I think that people should really read. The name is Marvels. It's a Marvel comic book, but it focuses on Phil Sheldon, a photographer that saw all the superheroes being born.
Yeah.
And so he's a hero on the small things by being the better version of himself every day, and by being a better father every day. But he there's a contrast between him and the superheroes, and we can see Marvel history, and we can see that superheroes can be good or bad depending on the lens in which we see
the lens from the camera.
Yeah. So I think that's my suggestion for today. And if you don't have...
Well, I have if I may,
sure.
Regarding morals, it's not a superhero movie and it's not a new movie, but I think it's my favorite movie from Clint Eastwood as a director. It's A Perfect World. It's a 1993 movie that I saw with my parents in the cinema, and that film made me cry. I don't know I was crying until we got home. 15 minutes in a car with my parents that I was sobbing until reaching home, because one of the things that really struck me as wonderful in that movie was the morals, the barometer that I had to put into questioning regarding what's wrong and what's right. So I don't think that you saw that movie.
I don't
it's
think so.
your homework.
Yeah, it is.
I think that there aren't a lot of podcasts that end with the homework. The guest
makes the homework for the host. Yeah.
So that's a new thing.
But I will definitely do my homework.
Okay.
And that reminds me, I don't usually, as you said, sob a lot, cry my eyes out, but this week I did. I haven't done it in almost a year. And I did it because I watched the full discussion of Jon Stewart regarding the first responder.
The 9/11 first responders.
And those are
real heroes.
Real heroes that didn't think twice about going and helping other people, and they didn't think. I don't know if you remember, but we read on a poster a few years ago. We always go, but we never know if we are coming back.
Yeah, firemen.
The firemen, but that's what they did, and those are real heroes. And another homework this time for you, if you don't want to watch movies or read the book, that will take you some time. Go and watch the Congress talk with Jon Stewart. It's only 10 minutes, and it's really worth it. And that way you can see real heroes in action and the consequences of their acts.
And sometimes real heroes also need some background heroes like Jon Stewart to make the ones that should resolve these matters do what they should have done. Congress should have the American Congress should make available all the things that they needed, especially in the health department, department that they went, the first responders went to the rubble, tried to save as many as possible, and they got some terrible illnesses. A lot of them died, and a lot of them that didn't die are dying day by day in excruciating ways, and the government said to them until now that they are not entitled to health benefits and to.
But now they are, and for life because of Jon Stewart.
Not because of Jon Stewart,
also because of what?
Yeah, but Jon Stewart was the public and still is the public voice. It's wonderful to see and to hear him as with that passion regarding something as terrible. So
that's how we conclude this episode. We are all both with a tear in our eyes.
That's this room is not very well cleaned.
Yeah. Also, but not only. But so we see you in 2 weeks, and Kirk Out.